eyes and experience tell us the earth is flat and motionless. Everything in the sky revolves around us. But when we cease to believe our own eyes and experience, we have to prostrate ourselves at the feet of these very pseudoscientists who are blinding us, treat them as experts, astronomical priests who have special knowledge only they can access, like the Hubble telescope. So by brainwashing us of something so gigantic and fundamental, it actually makes every other kind of lesser indoctrination a piece of cake. Earth being the flat, fixed center of the universe around which everything in the heavens revolves gives a special importance and significance not only to Earth, but to us humans, the most intelligent among the intelligent designers' designs. By turning Earth into a spinning ball thrown around the sun and shot through infinite space from a godless Big Bang, they turn humanity into a random, meaningless, purposeless accident of a blind, dumb universe. So it's like trauma-based mind control, beating the divinity out of us with their mental manipulations.
Humans, for the most part, don't have a clue. They don't want one or need one either. They're happy. They think they have a good bead on things.
But why the big secret? People are smart. They can handle it.
A person is smart. People are dumb, panicky, dangerous animals, and you know it. 1,500 years ago, everybody knew the Earth was the center of the universe. 500 years ago, everybody knew the Earth was flat. 15 minutes ago, you knew that people were alone on this planet. Imagine what you know tomorrow.
We sit watching our TVs while some local newscaster tells us that today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy. It's like everything everywhere is going crazy, so we don't go out anymore. We sit in the house, and slowly the world we're living in is getting smaller, and all we say is, please, at least leave us alone in our living rooms. Let me have my toaster and my TV and my steel-belted radios, and I won't say anything. Just leave us alone. Well, I'm not going to leave you alone.
In every revolution, there's one man with a vision.
Captain Kirk, I shall consider it.
I've been a participant in some of the most insidious lies and witnessed to deeds that no crazed man could imagine. I spent years watching you from my lofty position to know that you were the one I could trust.
And why did you lie to me?
There still exist some secrets which should remain secret. Truths that people are just not ready to know.
Who are you to decide that?
The world's reaction to such knowledge would be far too dangerous.
Dangerous? You mean in the sense of outrage? Like the reaction to the Kennedy assassination, or MIAs, or radiation experiments on terminal patients, Watergate, Iran-Contra, Roswell, the Tuskegee experiments. Where will it end?
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth! Get out!
Or what? You'll kill me?
Always remember, dissension's the greatest form of patriotism.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies.
We have before us the opportunity to forge a new world order.
Yes, we can. And you say.
Let us never tolerate outrageous conspiracy theories.
A lie is most convincingly hidden between two truths.
Well, I guess it won't end.
No! I don't have time for this. This is about saving the future of humanity.
We know things are bad, worse than bad. We know the air is unfit to breathe and our food is unfit to eat. I don't want you to protest. I don't want you to write to your congressman because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the crime in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad.
The line must be drawn here. This far, no farther.
I want you to get up right now. Go to your windows, open them, and stick your head out and yell, I'm a human being. My life has value, and I'm not gonna take this anymore.
You shall not pass!
You're listening to the Revolutionary Radio Project with your host, Rob Skiba.
Hello and welcome to the Revolutionary Radio Project. I am your host, Rob Skiba, and tonight we are going to continue with our read-along of my blog, The Flat Earth Controversy. This will be part 3 in the series. If you've missed the first 2, you might want to go back and check that out, but it is a read-along. So if you're listening to this live or in the archive, you can go to seedtheseries.com/blog/BibleEarth.html and read along with us tonight. We're going to start where it says the quest for truth begins. That's where we left off after we did part 2 last time, and I have quick jump links right here. The quest for this shows this is my website of about a 50-page blog if you print it out, dealing with the issue of flat Earth, something I never in a million years thought I would ever be entertaining or even considering or looking into or researching in any way. In fact, somebody on my Facebook was like, dude, why are you posting all this stuff about flat Earth? How come you're not posting anything about, it seems like you're favoring the flat Earth. How come you're not posting anything in regards to the globe? And I'm like, really? I'm 46 years old. Never in my entire life did I hear anything about flat Earth other than that supposedly people believed it 500 years ago, but none of us, have heard any details about it or what the actual model looks like or anything like that. Why would I talk about the globe? We've all heard, since we walked into kindergarten and saw the globe in our classroom, we've heard everything there is to know about the globe. I mean, it's on every book that we looked into on science and TV shows and movies. I mean, global is this, global is that, GPS, global positioning systems, global summits, global warming. The globe's all over the place. Why would I talk about the globe? Everybody's talking about the globe. Up until a month ago, nobody that I had ever heard of was ever talking in any real depth about the alternative view. And so, I mean, it's all new, and that's why I'm looking into it. It's why I'm posting stuff about it and on a quest for truth, because somebody challenged me. They were trying to post all this stuff, and I had the same reaction everybody else did. Why are we talking about this stuff? I mean, really? But I'm like, we're on a globe. And they're like, okay, prove it. And I'm like, well, that should be easy enough. Well, it turns out it's not so easy. Especially when you start throwing out organizations like NASA and the U.S. government or any other government on the planet for that matter, and the military as your source for truth. And when you throw those 3 out, the military, governments, and NASA, you throw those out, and it gets really hard to start proving what you think you understand. So all I'm trying to do is open up a dialogue here. But still, people are all up in arms, people freaking out. Why are you talking about flat and closed Earth anyway? I'm hearing all this stuff. And there's a couple of quotes I want to read here because I very much agree with them. Here's one from King Solomon. Proverbs 18:13 says, "He that answers a matter before he hears it, it is folly and a shame unto him." Aristotle said, "It is the mark of an educated man to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it." Herbert Spencer is quoted as saying, "There is a principle which is a bar against all information, which is a proof against all argument, and which cannot fail to keep a man in everlasting ignorance. That principle is condemnation before investigation." Now, it doesn't really matter to me what you think about those 3 people, Herbert Spencer, Aristotle, or King Solomon. Whatever you think about those people, I'll just say I agree with these statements. Whether or not I agree with anything else that they had to say, I certainly agree with Solomon, but, Aristotle, I just think, okay, fine. Whatever, the other stuff I'm not concerned with right here. I'm concerned with these 3 statements that these 3 individuals make, because those are the 3 things that I absolutely agree with. And I believe a good debater needs to take the time to get to know what his opposition believes. I mean, it's the only way you can have a ready defense against it when the time comes. So when the topic of this flat enclosed earth thing came up, by people who were trying to relentlessly try to get me to look at it, I decided not to just go with my initial knee-jerk reaction, which is the same as everybody else's. That's absurd. This is the 21st century. Why are we even talking about this? This was settled 500 years ago. Right? That was what I was thinking, but I decided, you know what? I'm going to take a look at this. You know, I'm going to try to educate myself on what they, i.e. the flat earthers, actually believe. And when I did, I must say, I was quite intrigued by all of this. And to be perfectly honest, it's not as cut and dry as I would have thought a month ago. You know, listen, a while back, I went home to visit my family in Massachusetts and found my baby book. And my mom kept a lot of notes from when I was growing up, you know, as a baby, a toddler, and a young kid, and documented my early development. And under the area of speech development, she said, her comment was, "He constantly questions everything." And then there was another section that said, "The most unusual phrase," and she said, what she wrote was that I said, "I just don't believe it." So see, nothing's changed. Not much has changed. I'm 46 years old and I still question everything and I don't believe it, you know, until I've proven it to myself that it's true. I'm not going to just take what somebody says and just believe it, especially now, now more than ever. In fact, I wrote a Facebook note recently called Question Everything. I'm going to read that for you here because I think it's appropriate. Question everything. The government and mainstream media lies to us about just about everything. NASA was founded by Nazis, occultists, and Luciferians who worship the father of lies. Our presidents and astronauts belong to secret societies. Tell me again why we should trust them? Our public schools peddle the lies of evolution as fact. And as if all of that weren't enough, no matter how innocent their intentions may have been, many of our parents lied to us about Santa, the Easter Bunny, and Tooth Fairy too. While at the same time, our churches have lied and continue to lie to us about Christmas and Easter and a whole lot of other stuff. Yet all of us have, to some degree or other, believed all of the above as sources for truth. We accepted what they had to say without question. We are soon going to be entering a time of great deception. Considering how deceived we have already been, what makes you think you'll have a chance when the greatest of all deceptions comes upon us if you lack the fundamental ability to test your beliefs now? There is a reason Paul told us to test all things, and Yeshua sternly warned that we take heed, let no man deceive you, when he was questioned about the signs of the last days. There was a time not too long ago when millions didn't question what they were being told, and it cost the world dearly. Look at all these people who rallied behind this psychotic leader named Adolf Hitler. Right? Look at all these people. Crazy numbers of people who imposed absolute horror on the world because they apparently didn't question what they were being told. Look at all those people. All those dots are people. Now, what frightens me most about the recent trends I'm seeing here on Facebook is the tendency many have to believe just about anything without question. No testing, just accepting, followed by ridiculing those who are testing. To be honest, such people scare me because they are the ones who will likely fall in line with what is to come. We were just following orders. We didn't question. We just did what we were told. They are the ones who will likely fall in line with what is to come. They are the ones who will be turning in their own friends and family who do question the status quo, all while thinking they are doing the right thing. They'll be the ones who are going to think the mark of the beast is a good thing. They're the ones who are already going to monkey man doctors and willingly pumping their bodies full of toxic chemicals, radiation, and animal, as well as other foreign DNA, in the hopes it will heal their ailments, much of which came upon them by believing the FDA actually cares about their health and that GMO food and things Yahuwah condemns and calls unclean and an abomination is okay to eat. They're the ones who will put their trust in something that has a 3% success rate while mocking and or getting mad at those who have enough sense to question such treatments. They are the ones who will put more trust in what science tells them than what the Word of God tells them. Frankly, such people scare me way more than anything else in this world. In my opinion, and you can take that for whatever it's worth, you had better get into the habit of questioning everything now, because you will only get good at what you take the time to practice. So yeah, I'm questioning. I'm questioning a lot of stuff right now. In fact, I need to let off a little steam here. I'm going to go on a little rant, okay? Tune me out if you want to, skip ahead if you want to, but I need to get some things off my chest now. Ever since beginning on this quest for truth regarding this whole issue of the globe versus the flat earth, man, I mean, people just are like putting their level of cognitive dissonance on display for everybody else to see. I mean, like, how much do you have? Well, I have this much. How much do you have? I mean, you got people just going crazy out there. They're even going crazy on each other within the flat earth community. I mean, you got Eric Dubay and others saying that Mark Sargent is a shill. So, I decided to go look up what the word shill actually means. And I'm just going to read it here from the website dictionary.com. It describes a shill as, noun, a person who poses as a customer in order to decoy others into participating as at a gambling house, auction, confidence game, etc. 2, a person who publicizes or praises something or someone for reasons of self-interest, personal profit, or friendship or loyalty. Is that what Mark Sargent is doing? I don't know. I mean, he's made a name for himself out there with his videos because, frankly, those are very well done videos. I mean, some of the other flat earthers out there are putting out videos too, but they're not even remotely close to the level of quality that the ones that Mark put out. So maybe there's some jealousy going on. But I don't know the guy real well. I've corresponded with him a little bit and, of course, had him on my radio show. But he seems to me, and I could be wrong, but he just seems to me like a guy who's been looking at a lot of research. He's always complimenting the others that he got the research from and pointing other people to their websites and resources. He doesn't agree with everything, but so what? He's just expressing his opinion based on the evidence that he's looked into. So, I mean, give the guy a break. Are you guys out there writing blogs or producing books or videos or radio shows? This guy's taken the time to consolidate his research into some very well produced videos. And then you got others out there saying that Eric Dubay is, Zen Buddhist or something. He's not a Christian. He doesn't share our worldview with as it pertains to Christ and salvation. You know what? Here's newsflash for you. There's about 5 billion or 6 billion people out there that don't agree with our view of salvation and things of that nature. That's a separate issue. I mean, if you want to discuss religion and faith, well, create a forum and discuss it. But don't deflect from this topic to go into that topic. When it comes to the issue of the flat earth, I mean, here's a guy who's done a ton of research. I mean, he's probably the most articulate of anybody that I've looked at so far. He's got some great radio interviews out there and some pretty decent videos out there as well. But I mean, a ton of well-researched information on his blog, and I guess he's written a book too. I need to get that book, and I'd love to have him on the radio show. The guy's done some fantastic research. So again, I mean, if you guys are just going to sit around and be armchair critics, you know what? I don't really care what you have to say, frankly. I find it disgusting that everybody's bashing everybody, even within the flat earth community. It's like, come on, guys. None of us have the corner on truth. None of us. Not one person. I'll be the first to admit it. I don't. I've got more questions than I have answers. And, I say it all the time. I'm on a quest for truth because I don't have the corner on it. And neither do you. There's nobody on the planet that has it. Not zip, zero, not a zilch. Not one single person on the planet has it 100% correct about everything. You know, I mean, how many denominations do we have in the Christian faith alone? We can't agree. I mean, just I was a Baptist, but even within the Baptist denomination, you got, I don't know, however many dozen sub denominations of the Baptist church, because everybody can't agree. It's like, come on, people. You know, stop with this. Well, he's a Jew, he's a Christian, he's a Buddhist, he's a Muslim, he's a Hindu, he's an atheist, he's a she, he's a homosexual, blah, blah, blah. That's ad hominem attacks right there, okay? You know, stick to the subject. Stop going after the people. I mean, that just shows that you don't have a clue what you're talking about, and you've resorted to attacking the person because you don't have a ready defense or a good counter argument for what's being put on the table. You know, just honestly, it drives me crazy what's going on right now. Knock it off, people. Like, learn how to communicate. Open your mind to other possibilities and listen. Somebody else might have something to tell you every now and then. You know, and I have to say, one of the reasons why I joined the Truth Frequency Radio Network is because the founders of this network created a platform for people from vastly different points of view, in some cases, and perspectives, to come together and share their stuff for you, the listener, to listen. I mean, if you don't agree with me, you probably agree with the next guy after me or before me. Great. If you don't agree with them, maybe you'll agree with me. But, you know, they made it possible for many people to have a voice. And we need more of that. I was honored when they asked me to participate on this network. You know, they may not even, the people who invited me may not even agree with me, but they thought that I had something to say that was, you know, valuable. And I appreciate that, you know, and I like hearing other points of view myself. I may not agree with it, but I like to hear it. So I can at least weigh the options and you know what, maybe even learn a thing or two. There's a concept right there. Imagine that. Somebody else might have something to say that you could learn from. You know, that's what excites me about being on Truth Frequency Radio Network. And I'm trying to foster the same type of environment in everything that I do, where, you know what, you have a voice. I want to hear it. I may not agree with you, but I want to hear it. You know, but don't launch into attack mode because I disagree with you or because you disagree with me. We can't have meaningful dialogue that way. And without the meaningful dialogue, you know, neither one of us are going to learn anything. And I'm sorry, but I'll tell you what, it is becoming increasingly apparent to me that Christians especially, they don't want you to talk or question anything these days. They don't want you to talk about anything that may be even slightly controversial. I mean, if you talk about Jesus, the sacred namers go psycho on you. If you pronounce the Yod-He Vav-He wrong, you know, some say Yahweh, some say Yahuwah, Jehovah, Jehovah. You know, if you pronounce the name wrong, you know, the same people start throwing stones at you, the sacred namers. You talk about grace and the Torah, people go psycho. You talk about the law and about 95% of the church goes psycho on you. You talk about the rapture and everybody goes psycho. I mean, you question anything about the political state of Israel, and the Zionists, along with all the Christians who are brainwashed by them and in lockstep with them, will go psycho on you. You talk about the feasts of the Lord, and the traditional Christmas and Easter people are going to go crazy on you. I mean, you talk about anything that relates to actually obeying God, and all the theologians start going psycho on you, especially the dispensationalists. You talk about any one particular denomination, and all the other ones are going to go psycho on you. I mean, it goes on and on. So you basically just throw your arms up and just start posting cute puppy pictures on Facebook, and then, well, all the cat people go psycho on you. And you just can't win. I mean, it's like the whole world's turning into a lunatic asylum. I mean, whatever happened to coming together and reasoning and trying to be iron sharpening iron and testing all things? Scripture says we are to test all things. Does all mean all or not? I mean, if all means all, what's wrong with testing this subject? And worse still, Christians, I'm telling you, they are notorious for twisting what you say into things that you do not say, and then forming a circular firing squad and yelling fire. I mean, Christians, I've said it before, they have the only military that assembles its firing squad in a circle, truly. And it's already happening with this issue concerning the flat earth. No matter how much I say, and even when I cap it, I'm in all caps, on Facebook, I still believe the world is a sphere. The videos that I've been producing, the beginning of them, I say it like 3 times. Hey, just to make sure you're getting it, read it out loud. I still believe the earth is a sphere. I still got psychotic lunatics out there spreading lies all over the place that I've gone off the edge. I've lost my, marbles. I've gone off the deep end. I'm a flat earther. No, I am not yet a flat earther. I'm a questioning globalist. And by globalist, I mean somebody who believes in the globe. And that's the context in which I'm saying that. And I think rightfully so, because to be honest with you, the flat earthers have some good arguments. But even then, you've got others out there freaking out saying it's not flat, it's not a globe. The truth is, it is concave. And if you don't believe that, then you're really a coward and an idiot. In fact, I got to show you something here. Hang on a second. I probably shouldn't, but what the heck. I'll give this guy his 4 minutes of fame in my little YouTube channel here. Someone calling himself Lord Stephen Christ had a little commentary on me just recently, May 17th. He posted this.
So I was watching a video earlier, a conversation between Mark Sargent and Rob Skiba. Rob Skiba is a biblical researcher, a presenter. He's a pretty smart man.
Thank you.
He talks about the Bible, talks about the archons and the watchers and the time before the flood where the sons of God mingled with the daughters of men. And talks about extra biblical texts, the book of Jasher, the book of Enoch, Ecclesiastes, and what's the other one? Jubilees. So anyway, Rob has jumped onto the bandwagon of trying to figure out if the earth is flat or not. And it seems like he was affected by the rhetorical repartee of the conversationalist and what I think is the PSYOP agent, Mr. Mark Sargent. That's the thing, what I've noticed with a lot of people here. They're given 2 options, a paradigm of either a round convex earth or a flat earth. You're not presented with the truth, though. Neither one of those options is correct. The truth is the earth is spherical concave, especially if you are a biblical scholar and presenter and a researcher. You should really understand how the heaven and the earth work. The ordinances of heaven take dominion thereof in the earth. Job 38:33. So anyway, I left a message for Rob. And I want him to Skype me, but I can have a conversation with him. Problem I see with people like this, I don't want to prematurely judge him, but it seems like people like this who are fairly well known within the internet community anyway, they developed a following, and to associate themselves with me, somebody who appears crazy by self-proclaiming myself to be the second coming of Christ.
What?
Somebody who appears crazy by self-proclaiming myself to be the second coming of Christ.
This is what he has to say about that.
Nobody's up there. There's no God up in the sky. There's no Jesus up in the sky. There's no God the Father up in the sky. The only God is the one you're looking at right now, me. And I'm powerless until I'm exalted. And once I am exalted, then I will start reigning with righteousness. I will start taking care of the problems of the world. But right now I'm powerless. That's the true concept of the return of Christ.
Okay.
However, who provides accurate scientific and biblical information about the earth, concave earth, they want to kind of like avoid. I'm the elephant in the living room. I've seen this time and time again.
Wonder why.
Sargent never called me back. People like that, they don't want to be associated with me. They don't want to be polluted by being in association with me, by talking to me, by dialoguing with me. Therefore, I question their integrity. I question their love and desire for truth, or for God, even if they're a preacher or they're a biblical scholar. Are you loving God, or are you loving your desire for fame and fortune? Are you worried about your following? You're going to lose your following. Why did you jump onto the flat earth bandwagon? Because it was a popular topic these days?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, dude. If you're watching this, I don't mean to make funny or anything like that, but you're sitting there and like saying you are the reincarnation of Christ, the second coming, and I need to listen to you because you've got it all figured out and I don't. And you produce a video like this where you just come out bashing me. First of all, I don't respond well to people who bully me or who come out swinging in an attack mode. All right, that's just like basic human communication 101. But as far as, am I afraid to dialogue with you because I'm going to lose my? I got to hear that again. Hang on.
Are you loving God, or are you loving your desire for fame and fortune?
Fame and fortune. If people like actually saw my bank account and like see how Sheila and I live in a 2-bedroom apartment with a 10-year-old car and another leased company car that we, I pay $220 a month for our company car. There's not a whole lot of fame and fortune going on over here. Sorry to burst whatever illusions people have about me, but yeah.
Are you worried about your following? You're going to lose your following. Why did you jump onto the flat earth bandwagon? Because it was a popular topic these days?
Yeah. Ever since I allegedly jumped on the flat earth bandwagon, I'm doing air quotes over here, friends, so-called friends, have been jumping ship and bailing out by the dozens. I'm not winning any popularity contests by getting into this subject. I've said it a million times before. The only reason I'm even looking at this, well, yes, it is a popular subject right now, but that's not why I'm looking into it. I'm looking into it because somebody challenged me to prove that we're on a globe. And so, I thought it would be easy to do so, easy enough, right? But it's turned out it's not so easy. So I'm on a quest for truth. I've said that. Doug Hamp and I started a whole show based on that topic, being on a quest for truth. That's why I'm looking into this stuff. Now, as far as concave goes, that one makes even less sense to me than flat earth. As you're going to see in this video and in the previous ones, whenever I did horizon tests and stuff like that, it doesn't show convex or concave. It shows flat when you look at the waters. So the idea that we're on this concave spherical Earth, unless you're talking about an enclosed system within which there's a flat-ish, I know there's peaks and valleys, but if there's like a flat-ish base inside of a dome, if that's what you're talking about, yeah, I can see that. I don't know that I would call it a concave model. I would call it an enclosed model. But whatever the case may be, I'm sorry, but I'm just not interested in talking with people who think that they are the reincarnation of Jesus and come at me swinging. Right? Maybe that's just me. Maybe I got some character issues to work on. All right. So this guy's out there calling me out, saying that, everything wrong with me. But what else is new? Somebody's always got something to say about what I'm doing wrong. Fine, whatever. At least this guy's out there making videos. Good enough. Fine. You might want to change your shirt, though, if you want people to actually take you seriously. Anyway. All right. Now, you know what? Now, am I completely convinced about this whole flat enclosed earth stuff? No, I'm not. That's why I'm looking into it. I find it intriguing. But I think maybe after this episode, or at least definitely the next episode that I'm going to do, we're really going to have to do some serious thinking about this whole issue. And some of it may make you angry because you're going to have to be confronted with some things, just as I've been confronted with some things. Because I'll tell you what, the Bible, if you say you believe the Bible and you use it as your authority for truth, the Bible absolutely argues in favor of an enclosed system on a stationary earth. It certainly does not in any way, shape, or form advocate a globe. And, I'm already dealing with stuff because of some of my other beliefs, concerning the rapture or the Torah or things like that. People are already calling me a cult-leading heretic and all kinds of other names and slanderous gossip all over the place. Look, I am not a glutton for punishment. I'm not somebody who just gets off on like having people tear me apart publicly. I'm not into that. I'm not a masochist. If I mean, think about that. If I've already got this kind of negative press, as it were, by my own people out there, Christians bashing me, do you really think I need another excuse to pile more on? Do you really think I'm like, yeah, let me throw this out there so more people can go psycho on me? No. The only reason I'm giving this any attention whatsoever is because I am true to my quest for truth. When I say I'm on a quest for truth, I mean it. And when it says test all things, I'm willing to test my beliefs. Unfortunately, I'm finding a whole lot of people out there are not willing to do that. They're not willing to test their own beliefs. And they're posers. They say they're on a quest for truth, but they refuse to get on the ship that's going out to do that quest. And then you have those people out there saying, there are far more important things to be discussing than this. And, we're supposed to be out there reaching the lost and caring for the sick. Well, of course we are. We're supposed to be out there reaching the lost and caring for the sick. I get that. And apparently, according to them, we should also be out there warning everybody that tomorrow's the end of the world. And, the rapture is going to come in a second now, due to whatever scripted trauma-based mind control mainstream media is telling us today. That's what we're supposed to be out there doing. Now, first of all, the notion that just because somebody brings up a subject like this for discussion, it ipso facto equates to not trying to reach the world with the gospel or caring for the sick and needy is utterly ridiculous. Okay, you people who are making those accusations, you have no clue what I do with my time. Yes, I've spent quite a bit of time researching this. That's not all I do. You have no idea what I do. I may come on Facebook, from time to time throughout my day, but that's not all I do with my time. I get emails constantly on a weekly basis from people who have experienced some sort of radical positive life change and or salvation experience or renewal in their faith in the Bible as a result of our ministry efforts. Can you say that? I'm not saying that to brag, but if you're going to point fingers at me and say, well, I'm not doing my job, well, let's compare fruit baskets if that's what you want to do. Because I guarantee you, there's a lot of fruit in my basket. Because, when people are sending me emails and letters and things saying that something they saw online or something that we did or something I said somewhere led them to get back in the Bible or to return to their Bible, to return to their faith, or to accept Jesus for the first time as their Lord and Savior because we were able to break down some kind of barrier that they had to accepting him, that's awesome. It's showing it's fruit of our labors. Unfortunately, the church isn't talking about most of the stuff that people like me are talking about. When was the last time you heard a church talk about UFOs, aliens, and Nephilim? Or even addressed issues like, whether or not we're on a globe and that we should take Scripture literally. You're not hearing that in church. So if you're not hearing it in church, where are you going to hear it? And meanwhile, you got ancient aliens, I don't know what season they're on now, 6 or 7 or something like that, constantly telling us that our ancient alien creators may be coming back someday. And what happens if somebody like that, and there's going to be a great deception. What is that great deception? What is it? It's going to be so great that even the elect could be deceived by it. Now people say, well, it says if, which means it's not going to be possible. I say, no, the if is there because it could be possible. Go back to Matthew 24. The disciples asked Jesus, what's it going to be like in the last days? First thing he says is, let no man deceive you. First thing. Well, if it's not possible to be deceived, why would the first thing he says is be sure you don't let somebody deceive you? Paul later says, be not deceived. So you got both Jesus and Paul giving us warnings about not letting other people deceive us, which means it's quite possible to be deceived. I'll just come right out and say I believe the church is thoroughly deceived about a great many things right now. And I don't care what denomination you're going to. I went to a Catholic church with a friend last weekend, and wow, it was overt, in-your-face Mary worship. They had this big statue. They marched through the audience, and they crowned the statue of Mary, and everybody's singing songs to the Queen of Heaven, which Jeremiah firmly warns us against, having anything to do with this Queen of Heaven idea. It's Ishtar, by the way. And laying roses down in front of the statue. I'm like, no way I'm doing that. I was the only person in the whole church that didn't do it. I went there because a friend invited me. Fine. But, I'm sorry. I'm not doing that. thorough deception going on there, but you got the same kind of thing in different ways going on in Baptist churches, Methodist churches, Presbyterian churches, and pretty much any mainstream denominational church is still doing that thinks that they've replaced the Sabbath with Sunday and is eating pork on Sunday after Ishtar Day celebrations and 40 days of weeping for Tammuz, calling it Lent, and doing December 25th worship to the Christ the King that was born on that day, which was not our Savior. Somebody else was born on December 25th, but it wasn't Jesus Christ. It wasn't Yeshua. So, I mean, I would say the church is already thoroughly deceived, but I think there's more to come. I think it's going to get a lot worse. And my whole ministry has been about trying to warn people about this stuff and try to get people back on God's page and to get back to the scriptures and trust the scriptures, And people are going to get on, why are we talking about this? You should be out there reaching the lost. Guess what? I am. Are you? While you're sitting there in your armchair accusing me and others? How's your fruit basket doing? How many people have you led to the Lord this week? How many emails and letters and phone calls did you get where people are saying that, you've had an impact on their life as a result of some sort of ministry effort? My wife and I, we take care of the sick. Our house has practically become like a little, I don't want to say nursing home, but that's kind of what it is. Taking care of people. All right. So we are taking care of the sick. We are reaching the lost. And, by the way, we are testing all things. So anyone that's out there hurling such accusations is being extremely presumptuous and exceptionally ignorant. I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is. And the question as to why I'm talking about this particular subject of our earth is easily answered by the fact that I am on a quest for truth. Simple as that. And that goes for every topic that comes my way. This topic just happens to be hot right now, and lots of people are out there asking me questions about it, both publicly and privately. So I decided to address it. Now, as I have repeatedly stated, I still believe in the spherical earth, but if you want to talk about what the Bible, note I didn't say science, has to say about the earth, well, I'm sorry, guys, but Scripture actually says something quite different from what we've been taught in school. I thought the whole subject was utterly ridiculous, just like most people, until I began looking into the Bible in order to test everything for myself. And even though I do still believe in the sphere, the Bible really does appear to argue against that thesis. And now it's thrown me into a quandary, feeling like quite the hypocrite. And I'm just going to be honest with you guys. You know what? There's things that I don't understand that keep me holding on to the globe on one hand. And on the other hand, I'm looking at the scriptures going, man, God is telling me point blank, it isn't what we've been taught. So, Rob, what am I going to do? What's your decision? And Sheila basically tried to call me on it. She called me on it the other day. She says, Jesus hates the lukewarm. He spits it out of his mouth. So what's the deal? I mean, you're showing everybody all this stuff about the flat earth and showing what the Bible says, but yet you're telling everybody you still believe in the sphere. So, she put the gauntlet down right there, called me on the floor. I said, honey, we see in Scripture where an individual says, Lord, I believe, but help my unbelief. Thomas, he'd heard the word from the disciples. He's alive, but he hadn't seen him. And he's like, unless I put my finger in the holes, I'm sorry, guys. I can't believe it. But you know what? Yeshua met Thomas where he was at. He showed up and said, here, put your fingers in the holes. And he said, blessed are you, Thomas, because you have seen, but more so those who have believed and not seen. You know what? My hat's off to those who are out there just saying, that's what the Bible says. That's what I believe. I want to believe that with all my heart too. That's why I'm out testing it. I'm out there looking to prove that the Bible says what it says and means what it says. Do you know why you believe what you believe, or do you just believe it? I think a lot of people out there just believe what they believe because they believe it, because somebody told them to believe it. Well, I'm not like that. I want to know that I know that I know. Hardly anybody challenges their own beliefs anymore. Somebody told them to believe it, so they do. They can't tell you why, but they just believe it. But if you cannot defend your belief and plug the holes your opposition could exploit, how strong is your belief? I mean, really, how strong is it? This is all I'm doing at the moment, Can my ideas and current understanding concerning the issue change? Could I actually become a flat earther convert one day? You know what? Sure. I won't rule out the possibility. But if such a thing were to happen, it would only be because I have thoroughly tested my current belief and found the opposing view and the empirical evidence stronger. And it could be that I find, you know what, it's absolutely a globe. And then, great. Then I'll know why I believe it. I won't be saying I believe it just because somebody told me it was, or because I saw, NASA photographs or a globe in the classroom my whole life. I'm going to know that I know because I went out there and tested it. And that's what this is all about. I will say that this whole exercise, if you will, is growing me in ways that I didn't even know I needed growth. It's helping me to understand things a whole lot better than I did before. It's caused me to dive deeper than I ever would have dove before. Yeah, I guess I have gone off the deep end because I am going deep. I'm going deeper. So many people are in the baby pool, shallow water. They don't know what they're doing or why they're doing it. They just like it there. It's fun to play in the baby pool. It's a good thing to go off the deep end every now and then and dive into this stuff. But I will say, I need to establish some rules for this particular quest for truth. And looking at my Facebook page and stuff, I guess I got to say, you got to love cognitive dissonance. I mean, it's so easy to mock and ridicule. But finding tangible proof for one's belief, on the other hand, well, that's not so easy. So rather than mock, why not actually apply yourself to rational discussion in a genuine quest for truth? If you're open to such a dialogue, I'm going to have to set some rules here. What government on this planet is trustworthy? Can you name any? I can't. I can't think of any governments on this planet or plane or earth, whatever you want to call it. This thing we're standing on. I can't find any governments that are trustworthy. And the military of all of these governments, all of these countries, I mean, they take their marching orders from their government. Well, let's go back to the first point. How many governments are trustworthy? Now, I understand that they're good men and women in the military, but they're taught to not question orders. They do what they're told. And the government's telling them what to do. NASA was founded by Nazis and occultists. This is a fact. And most of the astronauts were Freemasons. And they've been caught in plenty of lies as an organization. All three, whether we're talking about governments of the world, militaries of the world, or NASA, these people have, at least on the United States side of things anyway, they have access to trillions of unaccounted for dollars and state-of-the-art equipment of all sorts. Many of the members of these organizations at the highest levels are members of Luciferian secret societies serving the father of lies. Therefore, just imagine what kind of deception they are capable of, and you will understand why I won't trust any of them, and neither should you, as a source for any measure of truth about pretty much anything. When I make statements like occultists and Luciferians, okay, let me just say I'm not talking about Joe Blow at the lower level, employee level here, okay? They're probably just as deceived as everybody else. And for the most part, these people are not paid to ask questions, but rather just to do what they're told. I'm talking about the ones that are calling the shots and pulling the strings. The ones who control what gets released to us, the public, and what does not get released to us. So let's just try to keep that in perspective, okay? I'm not painting a broad stroke over every single person in the government or all the governments of the world or their military or NASA. I get that there are good people. There are good, honest, and sometimes even God-fearing people in these organizations. I just think, and I know from my own personal experiences, that the lower level folks generally have no clue as to what they're doing, what they're involved in, and how it could be enabling some things to come into fruition in the grand scheme of things. I mean, they have no idea what part they are playing, as cogs in the wheel of some big picture, of some big piece of machinery. So with this in mind, if you're going to come to my Facebook page or comment on my YouTube videos and mock me or any of my friends because you're convinced beyond all reasonable doubt that we're on a spinning globe, I'm just going to ask you to please do your best to hold such condescending comments back. Okay, hold them back. I'm asking you to provide tangible evidence that, and I don't need your opinion. Show us some tangible evidence that does not include references to any of what I've just mentioned, any of the above, governments, military, or NASA. Take them out of the equation and then show us some tangible stuff. Okay, otherwise just move along. Shut this video off. Turn the radio station off. Get off my Facebook page. This discussion is not for you, all right? If your cognitive dissonance is such that you are incapable of considering something other than what you think you believe, then go away. This is not for you. But if you're open for a quest for truth, then let's have the dialogue. Let's look at both sides of the story. Look at things from every angle we can look at. You know, don't say, well, I've done this my whole life and I know this is the way it is, and you know, you never convince me. Because I've said to people, hey, look, I understand this is your profession. I understand that you understand your job, you do it well. I get that. But is there another plausible way to arrive at the same conclusions that you say you believe in, other than a globe? Because when I've done that, when I flipped the board and looked at all the arguments that I thought I had for the globe, I found I could poke holes in a lot of those arguments and find another plausible explanation apart from necessarily having to be on a globe to resolve those issues. So, you know, for those of you out there, you know, I get it. Long-range shooters, I understand you have to correct for Coriolis effect. That's a big one. One of a few things that's keeping me tied to the globe idea is I don't understand how the Coriolis effect would work on a flat Earth. I don't get it. So I don't even understand how the whole thing works even on a globe. So for those of you out there who do understand those things, flip the board, put your brain power to it, and say, hey, you know, is there another possible way that such an effect could still happen apart from being on a globe? See what happens. I mean, what's it going to hurt? You know, if you don't have time for it, fine, move on. But allow the rest of us to do the exercise. You know, I posted something on my Facebook page that says test all things, you know, because there's a coming great deception. So if all means all, you know, we might as well start exercising our brain muscles, as it were, you know, in the exercise of testing now, so that when something comes across our path in the future, we will have had the experience in knowing what it's like to test something that could be a deception. If you don't, I mean, you only get good at what you practice. So why not start practicing now? You know, practicing this sort of thing now. That's all I'm saying. And, you know, my buddy John, I have to say, he's the one that really kind of got me going on all this. We went out to eat one day, and it just sort of came up in the discussion because there's a lot of this stuff going on Facebook. And he says, you ever think about the curvature of the Earth as it pertains to water? I said, I haven't really thought a whole lot about the curvature of the Earth at all. Never mind about water. He goes, well, you know, we're on a ball that's supposedly has a 25,000 mile circumference, which means that the curvature is about 8 inches per mile. How does water curve? How do you get the Pacific and the Atlantic Ocean and all these oceans to curve 8 inches per mile to maintain this alleged 25,000 mile circumference curvature of the Earth? How does that happen? And, you know, of course, they throw out the magic pill, gravity. Well, but I mean, if gravity is causing the pull to maintain this uniform curvature, then that means that in the deeper areas of the ocean, the pull of gravity has to be stronger than it is in the shallow areas. Because if it's not strong enough, then it won't maintain the curve. And in the shallow areas, if it maintains that same strength that's pulling the deepest part of the ocean down, then you won't get a nice uniform curve over the shallow areas. You get a dip because the pull of gravity would be pulling it down. You know, so how does that work? And, you know, all of a sudden I'm doing, you know, the Flintstone sound effect there, you know, thinking, okay, I don't know. So I started looking into it, you know, and I'm going to put up something here. This is a website called The Atlantean Conspiracy by a guy named Eric Dubay. I'm not sure how you pronounce his last name there. And he's got a section here dealing with water. I'm just going to go ahead and read it here. Eric says, it is part of the natural physics of water and other fluids to always find their level and remain flat. If disturbed in any way, motion ensues until the flat level is resumed. If dammed up, then released, the nature of all liquids is to quickly flood outwards, taking the easiest course towards finding its new level. The surface of all water, when not agitated by natural causes such as winds, tides, earthquakes, etc., is perfectly level. The sense of sight proves this to every unprejudiced and reasonable mind. Can any so-called scientist who teaches that the earth is a whirling globe take a heap of liquid water, whirl it around, and so make rotundity? He cannot. Therefore, it is utterly impossible to prove that an ocean is a whirling, rotund section of a globular earth rushing through space at the lying given rate of false philosophers. That's from somebody named William Thomas Weisman in The Earth, an Irregular Plane. If we were living on a whirling ball earth, every pond, lake, marsh, canal, and other large body of standing water, each part would have to comprise a slight arc or semicircle curving downwards from the central summit. For example, if the ball Earth were 25,000 miles in circumference, as NASA and modern astronomers say, then spherical trigonometry dictates the surface of all standing water must curve downwards an easily measurable 8 inches per mile multiplied by the square of the distance. This means along a 6-mile channel of standing water, the Earth would dip 6 feet on either end from the central peak. To the benefit of true science, and to the detriment of modern astronomy's pseudoscience, such an experiment can and has been tested. In Cambridge, England, there is a 20-mile canal called the Old Bedford, which passes in a straight line through the fenlands known as the Bedford Level. The water has no interruption from locks or water gates of any kind and remains stationary, making it perfectly suitable for determining whether any amount of convexity curvature actually exists. In the latter part of the 19th century, Dr. Samuel Robotham, a famous flat earther and author of the fine book Earth Not a Globe, an experimental inquiry into the true figure of the Earth, proving it a plane without axial or orbital motion and the only material world in the universe, traveled to the Bedford Level and performed a series of experiments to determine whether the surface of standing water is flat or convex. A boat with a flag staff, the top of the flag 5 feet above the surface of the water, was directed to sail from a place called Welch's Dam, a well-known ferry passage, to another called Welney Bridge. These 2 points are 6 statute miles apart. The author, with a good telescope, went into the water and with the eye about 8 inches above the surface, observed the receding boat during the whole period required to sail to Wenley Bridge. The flag and the boat were distinctly visible throughout the whole distance. There could be no mistake as to the distance passed over, as the man in charge of the boat had instructions to lift one of his oars to the top of the arch the moment he reached the bridge. The experiment commenced about 3 o'clock in the afternoon of a summer's day, and the sun was shining brightly and nearly behind or against the boat during the whole of its passage. Nearly every condition had been fulfilled, and the result was to the last degree definite and satisfactory. The conclusion was unavoidable that the surface of the water for a length of 6 miles did not in any appreciable extent decline or curvate downwards from the line of sight. But if the Earth is a globe, the surface of the 6 miles length of water would have been 6 feet higher in the center than at the 2 extremities. From this experiment, it follows that the surface of standing water is not convex, and therefore that the Earth is not a globe. On the contrary, this simple experiment is all sufficient to prove that the surface of the water is parallel to the line of sight, and is therefore horizontal, and that the Earth cannot be other than a plane. Dr. Samuel Robotham, Zetetic Astronomy, Earth Not a Globe, an experimental inquiry into the true figure of the Earth, proving a plane without axial or orbital motion and the only material world in the universe, 12 through 13. In a second experiment, Dr. Robotham placed 7 flags along the edge of the water, each 1 mile distant from the next, with their tops positioned 5 feet above the surface. Near the last one, he also positioned a longer 8-foot staff bearing a 3-foot flag so that its bottom aligned precisely with the tops of the other flags. He then mounted a telescope at a height of 5 feet behind the first flag and took his observations. If the Earth was a globe of 25,000 miles, each successive flag would have to decline a definite and determined amount below the last. The first and second flags simply established the line of sight. The third flag should then fall 8 inches below the second, the fourth flag 32 inches below, the fifth 6 feet, the sixth 10 feet 8 inches, and the seventh flag should be a clear 16 feet 8 inches below the line of sight. Even if the Earth was a globe of 100,000 miles, an amount of easily measurable curvature should and would still be evident in this experiment. But the reality is not a single inch of curvature was detected, and the flags all lined up perfectly as consistent with a flat plane. This rotundity of the Earth would necessitate the above conditions, but as they cannot be found to exist, the doctrine must be pronounced as only a simple theory having no foundation in fact, a pure invention of misdirected genius, splendid in its comprehensiveness and bearing upon natural phenomena, but nevertheless mathematical and logical necessities compel its denunciation as an absolute falsehood. Dr. Samuel Robotham in Zetetic Astronomy, Earth Not a Globe, 14. Dr. Robotham conducted several other experiments using telescopes, spirit levels, and theodolites. I don't know what that is. Theodolites. Special precision instruments used for measuring angles in horizontal or vertical planes. By positioning them at equal heights aimed at each other successively, he proved over and over the Earth to be perfectly flat for miles without a single inch of curvature. His findings caused quite a stir in the scientific community, and thanks to 30 years of his efforts, the shape of the Earth became a hot topic of debate around the turn of the 19th century. Is water level or is it not? Was a question once asked of an astronomer. Practically yes, theoretically no, was the reply. Now, when the theory does not harmonize with practice, the best thing to do is drop the theory. It is getting too late now to say, so much the worse for the facts. To drop the theory, which supposes a curved surface to standing water, is to acknowledge the facts. Whenever experiments have been tried on the surface of standing water, the surface has always been found to be level. If the Earth were a globe, the surface of all standing water would be convex. This is an experimental proof that Earth is not a globe. William Carpenter, 100 Proofs the Earth is not a globe. And, you know, I went out to the Malibu beach in California and looked out over the beach, and from left to right, you know, over a substantial distance. I mean, when you see the field of view that you're able to look at from one end to the left to the other to the right, it's a lot of ground right there, water right there, a lot of territory, a lot of mileage there. No curvature was detected. You know, if the Earth is a curve, I mean, it not only curves over the edge, you know, looking to the distance in front of you, but it's curving to the left and right, supposedly. But, you know, and to be fair, when there's land mass on the right and on the left, you know, forming sort of a boundary to your peripheral vision on the left and to the right, and water in the middle, your brain does pull tricks on you. It does look like it is curved. You know, and I would have said, you know what, it looks curved to me. But when you put it in Photoshop and put some parallel lines over it, as I did, you end up, you know, like on the airplane, perfectly flat. On the beach, I mean, look at the distance. Look how far away those buildings are. There's some good mileage going on there. Flat as a pancake. Keep going, still flat. Keep going, flat. All the way to the right, flat. All the way across, flat, 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 flat. Everywhere I look, flat. So my personal test on the beach proved this, not this. You don't believe me? Go out there and do it yourself. See what happens. Post the results. Just don't use a fisheye lens or a wide angle, you know, a camera that's shooting wide angle, because it's going to distort everything. And you know that you're using that type of lens if you move the camera up and down while you're looking at the horizon, and it goes from convex to flat to concave to flat to convex to flat to concave. You know, if it's going back and forth, and the ends are in the middle is constantly morphing, like in the Red Bull video. Here you see it's morphing. You know, the Red Bull video is showing you that it solves the whole problem for us. We're not on a globe. We're not on a convex surface. We're on a flat surface. We're on a concave surface. We're on all three. I mean, mystery solved. It's all the above, because that's what you get when you use a fisheye lens and the camera starts moving in any way. So you can't use that type of lens. The article here continues: since any given body of water must have a level surface, no one part higher than another, and seeing that all our oceans, a few inland seas excepted, are connected together, it follows that they are all virtually of the same level. English Mechanic, 26th June. That's interesting. That's my birthday, June 26th, not 1896, but that date in 1896 was my birthday. A little bit of serendipity there for me. Astronomers say the magical magnetism of gravity is what keeps all the oceans of the world stuck to the ball Earth. They say that because the Earth is so massive, by virtue of this mass, it creates a magic force able to hold people, oceans, and atmosphere tightly clung to the underside of the spinning ball. Unfortunately, however, they cannot provide any practical example of this on a scale smaller than the planetary. For example, a spinning wet tennis ball has the exact opposite effect of the supposed ball Earth. Any water poured over it simply falls off the sides, and giving it a spin results in water flying off 360 degrees like a dog shaking after a bath. Astronomers concede the wet tennis ball example displays the opposite effect of their supposed ball Earth, but claim that at some unknown mass, the magic adhesive properties of gravity suddenly kick in, allowing the spinning wet tennis ball Earth to keep every drop of gravitized water stuck to the surface. Again, their theory flies in the face of all practical evidence, but they have been running with it for 500 years, so why stop now? If the Earth were a globe rolling and dashing through space at the rate of 100 miles in 5 seconds of time, the waters of seas and oceans could not, by any known law, be kept on its surface. The assertion that they could be retained under these circumstances being an outrage upon human understanding and credulity. But as the Earth, that is, the habitable world of dry land, is found to be standing out of the water and in the water of the mighty deep, whose circumferential boundary is ice, we may throw the statement back into the teeth of those who make it and flaunt before their faces the flag of reason and common sense inscribed with a proof that the Earth is not a globe. William Carpenter, 100 Proofs the Earth is not a Globe. I guess page 86, it looks like. Okay, so this is, it's an interesting article. It's what initially got me thinking, and even considering giving this any amount of my time. So you can check that out for yourself. Then, of course, when I did one of my previous shows here, I think, it was the last show, I showed this picture right here, of this photograph taken by Joshua Nowicki. And somebody responded to my video, "Oh, that looks totally fake. That's like Photoshop. That's just, duh, that's totally fake." I said, okay, well, you know what? It was apparently believable enough for an ABC News affiliate to do this tap dance here in this video where the guy's like having to say, well, because that's 60 miles away and we know it's not possible to see something 60 miles away, then obviously what we're looking at here is a mirage. That's what the ABC Channel 57 news affiliate guy right here said. So he believed it. ABC News believed it. They ran with it and did a tap dance story to explain away why something that's 60 miles away, which should not be seen, was seen. It's a mirage. So they believed it was real. But if you just go look up this guy, you can find him online. This is his pictures he's got on Facebook here. Trying to remember where I saw it. Maybe it's here, 2015. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. So here's a video that the guy this guy took showing the Chicago skyline. Okay, over time, and this is, I guess, a time-lapse video. And as the sun starts to go down and the atmosphere gets less hazy, things start to become more visible. I mean, I suppose you could say that's some really creative After Effects if you wanted to. This guy's saying it's real. It's more believable than the stuff that I've been seeing for the globe. People out there. In fact, let me see if I can pull something out here on YouTube. I think it was called Earth Rotating 24 hours 4K, if I remember right. Planet Earth in 4K. This animation shows the Earth from May 15th to May 19th, 2011. It was created from images produced by the geostationary Electro-L weather satellite. Now, this is supposedly real, authentic, time lapse of the Earth. Do you believe it? Do you believe this is actual time-lapse photography from a weather satellite looking down on our Earth? Me personally, no, I don't believe it. I'm impressed by their ability to morph the clouds. That's a whole lot better than what the Galileo space probe did when it shot video of the Earth rotating in time-lapse. This one right here, no clouds moving. This is supposedly December 11th, 1990. The Galileo space probe supposedly shot this 25-hour time-lapse video. Look at that. None of these clouds are changing shape, morphing, or doing anything. 25 hours, complete rotation. Not one cloud dissipates. Not one cloud goes away. Not one cloud, accumulates, shows up. Nothing's moving. Everything's following exactly the same right here. It looks like this is Australia. That cloud's going right over it. Perfect. 25 hours. Nothing's moving. This is being passed off by Jet Propulsion Laboratories as legitimate. Well, probably in the 1990s, that's about the best they could do with that type of animation. Now they've gotten a little bit better at it. But I'm not buying this as real because I can create a really believable Earth myself. It looks very, very similar to this. Might even look better than this, using a software that costs about $300 called View. In fact, I wonder if I can even show that. I don't even know if I have View installed on this computer. I might actually be able to show you. Let me do a screen share on this. Screen share. Here's my Windows Explorer. I'm looking at that folder. Okay, that's an Earth I created. back on August 28th, 2006. Okay, using the software right here, View. I used some of the bitmaps that you can get online. You can get some of these various things. You know, how did they get these clouds? You know, this is a really nice bitmap of just clouds, no Earth. Did somebody actually get in there and erase the Earth underneath all those clouds? Or did somebody just make all these clouds up? It seems more likely, especially when you consider some of these cloud formations seem to always show up. They look the same on every Earth I've ever seen. Same exact cloud formations. In fact, you can take those clouds and map them on top of some of these other files like this. You can get these files online, you know, and shade them different ways, different atmospheres. You can create masks for them like that. You can put, when you create a mask like this and you mess around with the 3D software to give it this nighttime look, these are the city lights you can map on there. So I can make an Earth that looks like it's, you know, an Earth at night, or I can make an Earth that looks like it's at day. Put that same silly swirly cloud formation that you've seen like in every other image of it, and make this Earth. I made this. Me, Rob Skiba, 8/28/2006. Okay? I made that. Compare that to this, and frankly, I'm not impressed. Planet Earth in 4K. This is being passed off as a legitimate time-lapse video from a geosynchronous satellite, supposedly. You read the description here, November 15th, 2014, a time-lapse of Earth in 4K resolution as imaged by the geostationary Electro-L weather satellite from May 15th to May 19th, 2011. Electro-L is located 40,000 kilometers above the Indian Ocean, and it orbits at a speed that causes it to remain over the same spot as the Earth rotates. The satellite creates a 121 megapixel image every 30 minutes with visible and infrared light wavelengths. The images were edited to adjust levels and change the infrared channel from orange to green to show vegetation more naturally. The images were resized by 50%. Misalignment between frames were manually corrected, and image artifacts that occurred when the camera was facing toward the sun were partially corrected. The images were interpolated by a factor of 20 to create a smooth animation. The animation was rendered in the YouTube 4K UHD resolution 2840 by 2160. An original animation file with a resolution of 5568 by 5568 is available on request. To answer frequently asked questions, why are city lights, the sun, and other stars not visible? City lights are not visible because they are thousands of times less bright than the reflection of sunlight off the Earth. If the camera was sensitive enough to detect city lights, the Earth would be overexposed. The sun is not visible due to mechanisms used to protect the camera CCD from direct exposure to sunlight. A circular mask on the CCD ensures that only the Earth is visible. This mask can be seen as pixelation on Earth's horizon. The mask also excludes stars from view, although they would not be bright enough to be visible to this camera. Sounds good. Sounds reasonable. I could maybe buy that if I wasn't a 3D animator myself, and think this is a load of crap. Because when I made that globe back in 2006, this is how I used it in some of the ministry videos I created while I was a missionary.
Now, as we began to take a step back and look at the mission that God has called us to, we found it necessary to set some 10-year goals.
We call those 10-year goals the 1% factor.
It's our desire to be able to train 10,000 church planting leaders,
to establish 1,000 grace-oriented churches,
to penetrate 100 unreached people groups,
exposing 50 million people to the gospel by the year 2012.
Then I did this video the following year, 2007. I'm going to show you a bunch of clips from that video. In fact, I even won a Telly Award for these animations.
And God said, "Let the waters under the heaven be gathered together in one place, and let the dry land appear." And it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters he called seas. And God saw that it was good.
We've got to get that message out.
Jesus Christ is coming back very soon.
Time is of the essence.
More than 5 billion people still need to hear the gospel. We've got a job to do.
Tell people about Jesus Christ.
You know, Hudson Taylor once said, "Why should one person hear the gospel twice when there are tens of millions of people who've never even heard the name of Jesus once?" So right now, one of our strategic objectives is to go into these restricted access countries and expose 50 million people to the gospel.
The 50 million comes from the 1% factor, which is our 10-year strategy to reach 1% of the unbelieving world. The goal is to expose 50 million people to the gospel, to train 10,000 national leaders, plant 1,000 grace-oriented churches, and penetrate 100 unreached people groups, all by the year 2012.
You plant a seed with the gospel and you can reach a village. If you reach a village, you can reach a mountainside. If you reach a mountainside, you can reach a district. If you reach a district, you can reach a state. If you reach a state, you can reach a country. If you reach a country, you can reach a continent. And that's why we come.
We can reach the world for Jesus Christ. We can, but we're going to have to work together to do it.
And so I think that a question that is before our generation is really simple. Do I retreat or do I engage? And I guarantee you, if you and I choose to engage, Jesus Christ will meet us personally and lead you and I on an adventure that none of us could ever imagine.
I created that globe back in 2006, and I used it over and over and over again. I can't even tell you how many times I used that globe, both for my own missionary journeys as well as for the videos that I was creating for the ministry and to help them illustrate their 10-year plan. They had a plan from 2002 to 2012 to reach the world. So naturally, I was depicting the world as a globe in various ways. Then in 2008, the Japanese put this video out, allegedly from one of their lunar probes, showing the Earth rising over the moon's surface.
The Kaguya moves toward the South Pole on the far side of the moon. The blue Earth has appeared from the horizon. This is the Earthrise, as captured by the telephoto camera. The sun is located right behind the Kaguya. The sun's light is projected directly onto the Earth, which appears round like a full moon. In this footage, the Earth's southern hemisphere appears on top. This is a spectacular view of the beautiful planet we call home.
Yeah, sorry, but it looks more like a spectacular view of a high school level flash animation project. Maybe I'm prejudiced, but let's compare what I did with this so-called official space footage. You tell me what you think. Which one looks more realistic to you? Now, granted, I'm biased, right? I made it. But I think if I had nothing to do with this and somebody put these two up side by side, I'd probably be more inclined to pick the video on the left. Especially if it was slowed down. I mean, it was meant to be as fast as it was to fit the pacing of the video that I was making. But if I took the time to render that out a lot slower in the same way the Japanese one did, I don't know, the shading, the shadows, and everything else, to me, I think are a lot more believable than the one that I did. And I'm not just saying that because I did it. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. But then you post a picture like the Chicago skyline, and everybody's like, well, that just looks like Photoshop. They don't question the crap coming out of NASA, where they can't even get scale or color right, and they're always using the same cloud covers. I mean, look how big the United States of America is on this globe compared to this globe. And both of these are official NASA photographs. Now, I had some guy on YouTube go off on me because I posted this saying what I'm saying now. And he's like, oh, just because some flat earther can put together some composite images like that, that doesn't prove anything. I'm like, no, do like 5 minutes of research, buddy, before you make comments like that, showing just how ignorant you are by condemning without investigating. These are actual NASA photographs, which I put right here on my blog, quoting from them. You can click on the space.com website, space.com, go to their own photo gallery, click on it, the picture number 4, and see the pictures for yourself. If you took a minute to actually investigate before condemning. The NASA website, same thing. You know, the other picture right here, taken April 22nd, 2014 on Earth Day. You know, NASA website, click on their website, go to their own pictures, look through them, pick their pictures, look through it, you know, because that's what I did. You know, take a minute to do some research before you go out there condemning people who actually do the research. Right? NASA, this is not some flat earther, you know, putting this stuff together to try to discredit NASA. They do a good job of discrediting themselves. They don't need flat earthers' help. So if you're going to question, you know, some guy who's just out there, you know, taking nice pictures, you know, he's out there taking pictures. Here's another video that he took. Time lapse looking toward Chicago from the top of a dune in Warren Dunes State Park, April 29th, 2015. So just, you know, a couple weeks ago. The last few seconds are the most interesting part. Be sure to click on the HD button. I don't see an HD button, so. So, you know, the atmosphere is changing here. This is a time-lapse photo. 60 miles away. You're not supposed to be able to see this. Look at that. City of Chicago from 60 miles away. And yet some knucklehead drone is going to read a prompter that's telling him to explain this as a mirage. These are photographs taken by a guy named Joshua Nowicki, right on his website. Here are some more of his pictures. You can check out for yourself, you know, look at them. Chicago. That doesn't look like a mirage to me. The buildings also are not leaning off to the sides or leaning away from you. They're perfectly straight up and down. You know, if this is a mirage, I mean, first of all, it'd be all distorted and wavy and look totally weird. If we really are on a globe, then they should be like facing away from you, leaning away, not perfect straight up and down. They should be leaning side to side. They shouldn't look like that. You know, based on my own tests that I've been doing, I believe this guy. I think that that's really Chicago. I got a friend of mine, Rick Hummer. He says, you know, he's seen it too. He's looked out over the, you know, the horizon there and seen Chicago from where he lives in this general area. He said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to wait for a nice clear day. I'm going to set the camera up so I can see it, you know, from this distance. And I'm just going to take a boat right across and just drive it all the way there and watch, you know, the city get bigger and bigger and bigger, you know. Not all of a sudden magically the mirage goes away and then the city pops up over the horizon. Do the test for yourself, people. That's all I'm saying here. You know, you need to start questioning stuff. Why is it that we have these experiments down in Antarctica in the late 1950s? They go down there, Operation Deep Freeze and stuff. And then after this last expedition, everybody, you know, all pulls out and they sign the Atlantic Treaty saying that, you know, the Antarctica Treaty saying you can't set up any military bases down there. I understand that. That makes sense. But you also can't go down there and do whatever you want to do. You have to get permission. And even then, you're going to go there under heavy restrictions. You can't do whatever you want down there. You know, everybody pulled out and signed this treaty after that expedition. And right around that same time or shortly after that, you've got them, the government doing Operation Fishbowl. Operation Fishbowl. Why do they call it Operation Fishbowl? This is where they do, I think it was 5 nuclear tests where they were doing high altitude explosions, bluegill, starfish prime. And, I mean, you watch some of those videos, you know, here's a nuclear, this is a video, nuclear weapons test, Operation Dominic, of which as I understand it, Operation Fishbowl was part of as part of the larger Operation Dominic. So, the flat earthers believe that we're in a dome, and a fishbowl would be basically, a dome. If it was turned upside down, it would, right? Turn a fishbowl upside down, what do you get? You get a dome, right?
Above Johnston Island. Most of these bombs were carried aloft by the Air Force's Thor missile to continue the research of neutralizing incoming enemy warheads high above the Earth. Nuclear weapon testing had joined the space age.
Okay, so it shows a bunch of bombs going off, or missiles going off. Then they explode. High altitude nuclear explosions shortly after locking down Antarctica. I mean, if I were to take the flat earthers' point of view, this makes an interesting case for them trying to test the dome. I don't know. I know what they say, but if we are in fact in an enclosed system with a metal dome, as Scripture tells us that we are, then it kind of looks like these guys are launching missiles up into the dome. Maybe it's all a coincidence, maybe, could be. But if they're trying to, get us to not believe in conspiracy, look at just the names at some of these things. The Antarctic expedition, right? British Antarctic expedition, 1907 and 1909. Well, in 1908, Nimrod was born. 1908 years after creation, Nimrod was born. What's the expedition called? The Nimrod expedition, on a ship called the Nimrod. What was his desire? What Nimrod's desire in the Bible? To reach into heaven. I don't know. Just these are the crazy little things that keep me kind of looking at this whole thing and scratching my head going, I don't know. I'm just got to keep hopping down this bunny trail until I figure out what the deal is. It's why I'm even entertaining the idea of looking deeper. And even though there are plenty of people out there bashing and mocking and scoffing and ridiculing and stuff like that, I have to say, I've been running into actually a shocking number of people who are either doing the same thing that I'm doing here, looking into this stuff, or some of them are even standing firm. They firmly believe we are on a flat earth here in the 21st century. It's true. So, at this point, you have a choice. Either you can write all these people off as completely insane and crazy and ridiculous, which many of you are doing, or you can take a step back and say, why are otherwise intelligent people even considering this stuff? It's real easy to just write everybody off. But I'll tell you, and I'm not going to mention any names, but there are some very interesting people, educated people at that, who have been contacting me on the side. They don't want to go public like I'm going. They're probably smart, not coming out like I've been coming out. But they would say, hey, don't say anything to anybody else. But I've been looking at this too, and I got to say, and they're giving me their opinions on it. And I've been having quite a number of people contacting me by email and by phone and stuff like that, and people saying, hey, keep digging, man. You're on the right track. Don't give up. Consider this. Like people who have already been looking in some cases for a long time now, just haven't told anybody about it. But when I came out talking about it like I am, they're all of a sudden saying, hey, here's somebody I can share my stuff with. And, quite a number of people have been doing it. Then a couple of days ago, I was having an interesting dialogue with my friend John. Again, he's the guy who I mentioned earlier who really got me thinking about all this stuff with the, how does water curve, we had a really cool Skype conversation for about 2 hours, and he didn't mind that I recorded it. I asked him, can I record us talking? I want to keep some of this stuff. And he's like, yeah, no problem. So I'm going to play a few clips from that conversation. I think you'll find it interesting, especially concerning the part where John's talking about GPS. I think you'll find this rather intriguing. All right, here we go. So on Facebook, I don't know, a week or two ago, you sent me something about a conversation you had with somebody concerning GPS, and I wanted to hear that story again. So you were saying somebody had some kind of deal that they had worked in the Air Force or something?
Yeah, actually, we have a Bible study that meets here every Friday night at our house, and one of the couples that comes, their son is still in the Air Force. He's in E7, 15 years, and he specializes in ground-based radar as well as GPS. And I didn't tell him why I was really asking him a lot of questions, but he'd come to when he's home on leave, he'll come to Bible study. And I know he just got restationed from Germany over to out in Arizona. And he was here this past week, and we started talking. And I said, hey, you've come from time to time over the last couple of years. And, I was just curious what you do in the Air Force. And he told me ground-based radar is where he started, and that he now works with GPS and air traffic control and things and controlling aircraft. And I said, really? I said, I've always wondered, I've heard rumors that GPS is a fully ground-based system. Is that true or not? And he said, well, yes, it's a ground-based system that fully operates on towers. And then he goes, we send signals that bounce off of different airplanes, AWACS and other type of aircraft. And then they use that for triangulation, and that's how the GPS system works for the military, specifically what he does in the Air Force, which I found very interesting because I had an interview with Eric Dubai, and he was talking about that GPS systems are all ground-based technology, that you don't need the use of satellites like what we've been told. And here I have an E7 in the Air Force, 15 years, who's confirming something that Eric Dubai said, and he had no agenda. He didn't even really know why I was asking him. And I didn't go into a bunch of details on the flat earth. So I just thought it was very interesting. That's why I want to share it with you.
Yeah, that's so crazy because Sheila and I had just got back from California last Monday, and we were out there for a little over a week. And when we first got there, we flew into San Diego, and we went on the USS Midway. And I wasn't thinking. I mean, I've been thinking about flat Earth, all along, but I just went to go on a tour of the ship. I had no flat Earth agenda. I was just going to go on a little tour. And as I'm going through the tour, I didn't get very far into it when I see the azimuthal equidistant map on a plaque dedicated to the USS Midway. I'm going, oh, okay, well, all right. So that's interesting. And then we go up to the control room and the navigation room and the bridge and all that. And the tour guide is talking at each of these places. And he just kind of out of nowhere says,
you got a couple GPSs back on the bench here. The back one is 80s technology. The front one is 90s technology. GPS was developed by the Navy for submarine service and went on for there. Now it's everywhere. And I didn't know this till the other day, that we have, the United States, we control all the GPS satellites. They're all ours. And we let the rest of the world, everybody gets to use them for free. Because we're such nice guys. That ain't right.
Well, isn't that convenient? Because, everybody wants to talk about GPS as proof of a globe and, global positional satellites and all of that stuff. And they always say that, there's satellites up there. Well, we're the ones in charge of it all. We're the ones that call the shots. We're the ones that let people see whatever we want them to see, apparently, according to that deal. So this guy, E7 in the Air Force, is saying it's all ground-based and it's bouncing off of AWACS and other types of aircraft.
That's exactly what he said. It was funny, during the conversation, I was curious about satellites because I used to live out in California, and Vandenberg Air Force Base isn't too far from Los Angeles up the northern coast, or up the coast there towards Northern California. And they launched a lot of missiles, and the Air Force used to put out press releases and stuff of the launches from Vandenberg Air Force Base. And they said they were putting up satellites and military spy satellites and things like that. So I asked him, I said, hey, just out of curiosity, what can you tell me about the satellites that we have up in space that are in orbit and things like that? And he just kind of smiled and looked at me, and I was like, well, can you tell me anything about him? He goes, well, I can't, it's classified. But I found it interesting that he wasn't willing to talk about satellites at all, and really dodged the questions. And yet he had a look on his face. And what I do for a living, I'm good at reading people. And he just had this look on his face like, man, I want to talk, but I just can't. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean. This whole thing, first of all, if the flat earther model is true, then the way that they have it depicted, the sun and moon are floating up there somehow. So there apparently is a vacuum of some sort within which stuff is able to orbit. So I don't have any problem. I mean, some of the flat earthers say there's no satellites at all. If the sun and moon are orbiting within the canopy, within the dome, in that model, then I don't have any problem believing that the ISS could be up there, or that there could be satellites up there. Although, I mean, the more you look into it, the more you start questioning this stuff. Like the ISS stuff, some of that stuff just looks so blatantly false. In fact, there's all these videos showing what appears to be bubbles, like as if it's being shot underwater. So I really, honestly, I don't know what to think about some of that stuff.
I don't either. I mean, the thing is that I really do think something is up there. I believe that we're putting technology up there. I just believe it's not what we've been told that it is. Obviously, they're launching missiles from Vandenberg Air Force Base with some kind of a payload going somewhere. Obviously, we launched Apollo rockets going somewhere. We launched space shuttles going somewhere. So obviously, there's something there. And obviously, the military is not going to talk. But what I found interesting is that the GPS is a ground-based system bouncing off of military aircraft that are constantly in the air, and that's what this guy's job is. He basically maintains the system and maintains contact with the pilots that fly the different planes, the AWACS and other aircraft that are up in the skies over the United States and other parts of the world. And wherever he's stationed, they have other men like him that do that all around the world. So yes, it's a very advanced system, but it's from what he's saying, it's ground-based. And we talked a little bit about HARP, and that's all tied into it somehow as well. So like I said, I just believe that what we're told by governments is not the truth.
I gotta say, this whole investigation is really frustrating to me. And to make matters worse, I think I've got this kind of nervous thing. My nerves are kind of weird.
Yes.
And it unfortunately, it prevents me from being able to hold a camera steady like I used to be able to. I went to a reservoir near my house a couple of days ago. I got a cheap telescope. It was like $30 at Academy Sports. I think it was like 100 or 150 power telescope, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went to the reservoir, and the math says I shouldn't be able to see, the shoreline on the other side.
Yes.
But I already knew that I would be able to. I just wanted to try to document it. So I went out there with the telescope, looked through it. I could see stuff that theoretically I shouldn't be able to see on the other side. But when I was trying to get the camera into the eyepiece to take a picture of it, my fucking hands were like, I couldn't, because you're looking through such a small hole.
Yeah.
That's already shaking on a cheesy tripod to begin with. When between that and my shaky nervous problem, I was so frustrated because I couldn't get the picture that I wanted to get, so I'm like, so I'm frustrated by what my own physical limitations and optics and stuff like that right now. But it's like, okay, I could go out with a pair of binoculars and a pair of a telescope or something and look across the distance and see things I'm not supposed to see, but then everybody's just gonna have to believe me,
Right.
And so I'm like determined to try to find a way to where I can document it. And even if I do that, I'm telling people, look, I'm just showing you what I did. You can take it or leave it.
Yeah.
Believe me or don't believe me. I frankly don't care, but I'm going to try to document it as best as I can. And then you should go out and repeat the test for yourself. That's what I'm just saying, man, it's getting frustrating because some of the tests I wanted to do were at 8 to 12 miles in distance. And, a camera zoom is okay for that, but it's not ideal. So you really kind of need a help with that. And, just the frustration of mating a camera to binoculars or telescope. I don't have the equipment, and I don't have the desire to spend the kind of money that some of that stuff costs. to do it. So I don't know. I'm frustrated by it, but at the same time, I'm putting the call out for everybody who's watching or reading any of the stuff I'm putting out and say, hey, look, go out there and do this stuff for yourself and then post the results for me because I want to see it too. You know?
Well, one of the things that I want to do, and I wish I had the money to do it, is get a weather balloon.
Yeah.
And get a GoPro camera and stick it on there myself and send the thing up to 121,000 feet.
Well, the problem with the GoPro, though, is that it has the fisheye lens.
That's
so
true.
We need to get a camera that doesn't have a fisheye lens. Because that stupid fisheye lens, man, that's the other thing you run into over and over and over again. And of course, with the fisheye lens, you're going to get a curve, but you're going to get all kinds of stuff. You're going to get concave, you're going to get convex, you're going to get flat. You know, we're on, and I'm like, well, that solved the whole problem. There is no flat Earth, there's no globe. It's all three. It's concave, convex, and flat.
All at the same time.
Yeah, we're on the incredibly morphing Earth. There we go. Problem solved.
Well, I mean, I was reading, one in Genesis 1, it tells me that the sun, moon, and stars were created on day 4. It tells me that the sun and the sun is the greater light and the moon is the lesser light. So then I went to the book of Enoch and was looking at that because it's like a science class.
Yeah.
And there I found, I believe it was in chapter 18 or maybe chapter 19 of Enoch. It was telling me that they are the same size and that they're in an orbit and they have 6 different entrances that they enter in and out of the firmament. And that's how the seasons happen. And I'm going, wow. It's like a science lesson on how the seasons happen right there in the book of Enoch, led by an archangel by the name of Uriel. I mean, I don't know how much. I mean, if we're going to believe the book of Enoch, like what you've been teaching, Rob, on the Nephilim and the fall of Genesis 6, why wouldn't we take Enoch at face value then for, how the world works?
That is the mind trip, man. I mean, just the scriptures alone, and I'm about to produce a video on it. In fact, the video we're doing now may be incorporated into it. But, I mean, just look at the Bible alone. I mean, you have this constant description of the earth as stationary, not moving, on pillars, inside of a firmament that's separating waters from waters. All of the scriptures I saw in the Bible alone, if you throw out your preconceived ideas of a globe, because when you take your preconceived ideas and you read the text, where Isaiah says it's a circle, you just say, see, a ball is circular, except for the fact that Isaiah used the word dur for ball in chapter 22, verse 18, and he used chug or kug or however you pronounce it, a totally different Hebrew word in Isaiah 40. He clearly knew the difference between a ball and a circle. And he used the word circle. So, I mean, just the biblical text alone is giving the flat earthers, a lot of ammunition. But if you read the book of Enoch, because some people say, well, the Bible is not meant to be a book of science. It's a spiritual book. Okay, I would dispute that regarding the creation account, but fair enough. Okay, let's go with that. But the book of Enoch, it reads like a scientific journal when it comes to the mechanisms of the sun, moon, and stars and how they work and how the earth works. And I mean, it gives quite a bit of detail on it, and in my perspective, it gives a slam dunk, home run, whatever, field goal, whatever you want to metaphor you want to use for the flat earthers.
Absolutely, and as I've been going through the scripture, I've done the same thing you did. I pulled out my interlinear Bible and looked at the Hebrew, and again, I'm not going to claim to be a Hebrew scholar, but you're absolutely right. There were 2 different words that Isaiah used. And I don't think we give the ancients enough credit for the knowledge that they actually have. Yeah. Look at the methylitic structures that they've built. I mean, whether it be the pyramids, Stonehenge, I mean, go around the world and look at these things that we cannot explain. And Rob, we can't duplicate.
Yeah.
We just can't duplicate.
The megalithic structures, the pyramid, all that stuff. I mean, we think we're so smart we came from monkeys. Okay. I mean, let's put things in perspective. And we can't even remotely figure out how they quarried and cut and moved the stones, never mind assembled them. So the ancients were clearly far more advanced than we were. And you look at the Mayan calendar, it shows up around 3114 BC, extremely accurate. I mean, obviously these people are highly intelligent people, yet you look in the ancient cultures, whether you're Sumerian, Akkadian, Babylonian, Egyptian, even the Greeks, believed in a flat earth, as so did the Hebrews.
Yes, and all major religions, whether it's a Hindu, whether it's a Muslim, the ancient Hebrews, And they all have a flat Earth somewhere in their doctrine or their theologies, whether they actually believe it today. What I find interesting is the Catholic Church themselves never moved off of the doctrine. Just because Copernicus and Galileo and all those guys broke with the Catholic Church and favored quote unquote science over the authority of the church lost the battle in a sense, but all they did was put it in a drawer. And Mark Sargent really pointed that out to me, and I went back and looked at history, and he was absolutely right. There was never an official statement from the church ever condemning the flat Earth.
Everybody's backpedaling right now, and it's driving me crazy. Because you got all these people saying, "Oh, if you've ever flown in an airplane, and you looked out the window, you've seen a curvature. If you've ever stood on a beach, you've seen a curvature." And I'm like, okay, fine. Go stand on a beach, go fly a plane and take a picture without a fisheye lens, put it in Photoshop, throw some parallel bars over it, and tell me what you get. Because that's what I've been doing. And I've been in planes lots of times, been to over a dozen countries, sometimes multiple times to the same country as a missionary. And since then, being in the public speaking circuit, I've been flying a lot between 30 and 40,000 feet. And there was a time when I would have sworn, yeah, I saw the curve too. But then I look out the window, take a picture, or look at the pictures I've already taken or the video I've already taken, put it in a computer, put a parallel bar over it, it's flat. And so, I mean, on one hand, you got all these guys saying, "Ah, dude, you're such an idiot. If you just look out the window of a plane, you'll see that it's curved. You can stand on a beach, it's curved." I'm like, okay, you do it. And then as soon as I prove that that's not true, I put the picture on the beach. I put the picture of just from my last trip. I did both. Here's the beach at Malibu. Here's 37,000 feet from my Spirit airline flight, flat as a pancake. And then all of a sudden, all the globalists are coming out saying, "Well, actually, that's impossible to see at, unless you're above 60,000 feet." I'm like, okay, all right, wait a minute. I just took a bunch of crap from a bunch of globalists who claim that you can see it out of a plane and off the beach, and then I just proved that. So now you're saying, no, you can't. Oh, it just drives me crazy.
It is. It gets annoying. Because, it's just frustrating. It's almost like when you start waking somebody up, they get really angry at you.
Yes.
If you point to them the truth, I've noticed in my life, I get one of two reactions. I get, "Wow, I never saw that before. Let me look into it more." Or I get, "How dare you?" I mean, and they get angry at you.
Yeah.
I mean, those are the two reactions that I see, and they just want to just get angry, and it can't be. And I guess that's the programming. I'm sure there's some kind of I don't know.
When my quest for truth, like yours, really kind of kicked into high gear in 2009, and quickly I realized that just about everything I've been taught was a lie, and I had to start over. I'm not surprised by things anymore. I don't have that. I mean, we all have a certain level of cognitive dissonance where, when we receive kind of new information like that. But I mean, the shock thing for me has long gone away at this point. I'm like, oh, that's a lie too? That figures. I mean, that's kind of where I am right now. I mean, it doesn't surprise me. Everything else has been a lie, and maybe that's the point people need to get to is to where they question everything that they have been taught to believe before. Now, Nimrod's born in 1908 AM, year from creation. And then between 1907 and 1909, i.e. 1908, you have Shackleton going on the Nimrod expedition on the ship called the Nimrod to go check out Antarctica. And I can't make this stuff up. I mean, there are lots of things that really make you turn, scratch your head and go, what is going on? And you see what Admiral Byrd was doing down there with Operation High Jump and all that. And then throughout the 60s, you have, and this is what really kind of piqued my interest, is I was already interested in the Antarctic stuff with Admiral Byrd. But then after sort of his last expedition down there, everybody pulls out. Everybody has to sign this treaty. Nobody can go down there except under, very guided conditions. I mean, you can't just do whatever you want. You've got to go through the militaries and governments and whatnot in order to do whatever you want to do, and even then, it's restricted. And then you have Project Fishbowl or Operation Fishbowl, where I think there were 5 high altitude nuclear tests that were done, where they're blowing up nuclear bombs, and they call it Operation Fishbowl. You know, like really. I mean, if there's not a conspiracy, they really tried really hard to make you go down this path, because I mean, just the names that they're choosing alone,
well,
are meant. They have to make people do what we're doing right now.
It's almost the. I mean, we were talking about this at Bible study on Friday night. It's almost like, for lack of a better word, an FU, Rob, to us, because just look at the United Nations logo. To me, that
I know
that tells you all. I mean, how is that an irony? I mean, what is it? I mean, you put a flat Earth map on your flag for the United Nations.
Yeah, it's not like that's the only representation of the globe that would show all the continents. I mean, there are other stretched out representations of the Earth. I mean, artistically, stylistically, I mean, it makes for a great logo the way they have it, and some of the other ones, not so much so probably. But I could play both sides of the argument and say, well, it's an appropriate map to use, because it does depict all the continents wherein we have life. I mean, there's no, other than people visiting, there's no indigenous human life down in Antarctica.
That's correct.
So, I could see them using that rationale, but it really, I mean, these are all the things that play into the conspiracy mindset, if you will. I mean, it literally baits us into the conversations we're having. It's like,
right.
Let's go down to Antarctica and call it the Nimrod expedition. Check. Let's blow off nuclear bombs way up in the atmosphere and call it the Operation Fishbowl. Check. Let's put a logo on the United Nations flag that just so happens to be the flat earther model. Check. And let's watch everybody go crazy and do radio shows and see what happens. Somebody's messing with us.
It's comical.
It is.
I mean, I don't think you could write fiction this good. I really don't.
Boy, isn't that the truth? Whew. Yeah. Well, that's just a few highlights from some of the actually many phone calls that I've been having lately with different people. This has been an extremely bizarre and fascinating and interesting and humorous and frustrating journey so far. All right. Well, wow, I'm running out of time here. That was a really long intro for the next section that I started at the top of the show talking about. So let's get back to the blog. It's seedtheseries.com/blog/BibleEarth.html. Then you can just click on the quick jump link there for The Quest for Truth Begins. And let's dive in for the rest of this broadcast. I'll read, and you can follow along if you would like. As I said in my opening statements at the beginning of the blog, and of course all throughout this this whole broadcast so far, I am on a quest for truth here. Simple as that. And I don't care where it leads me. I just want to know. But as I have been on this quest, not just on this topic, but in a wide range of topics, I have had people constantly trying to warn me about losing my credibility. And a lot of people are like, Rob, we like your other stuff, but man, dude, you're really losing your credibility on this one. And they're trying to get me to stop. They're trying to get me to stop doing this. And, maybe I should have stopped. I don't know. But at least you can't tell me I'm a hypocrite, because I say I'm on a quest for truth, and I really am. That's why I didn't stop, and that's why I'm not stopping now. And I think it's really important right now that I address this issue head on. Words mean things, folks. Webster defines truth as A, archaic, fidelity, constancy. B, sincerity and action, character and utterance. 2A, 1, the state of being the case, fact. 2, the body of real things, events, and facts, actuality. 3, often capitalized, a transcendent, fundamental, or spiritual reality. B, a judgment, proposition, or idea that is true or accepted as true. C, the body of true statements and propositions. 3A, the property as of a statement of being in accord with fact and reality. B, chiefly British, true. 2C, fidelity to an original or to a standard. That's what truth means versus credibility. Credibility means the quality or power of inspiring belief. 2, the capacity for belief Thus, according to Webster, credibility has less to do with truth than it does belief. Please note that people constantly reject truth in favor of belief. I mean, it happens all the time. But when belief trumps truth, sorry, but we have a big problem, folks. Those who seek truth question their beliefs. So which do you care more about, credibility or truth? I care about truth. So, this whole thing, Rob, you're losing your credibility. You know what? I'm not in this to win a popularity contest. I want to know what the truth is. Simple as that. So I'm going to take truth over credibility. I care about truth, and if you do too, then by all means continue to read and test all things. But don't bother warning me about my credibility. I'd rather be known as someone who genuinely desires to know truth rather than striving to remain popular with the masses who are more concerned about credibility. Now, when testing everything, I'm not going to look to deceiving institutions and manipulated imagery. Rather, I will seek guidance from the Holy Spirit as I search the Scriptures. When it comes to the shape and nature of the earth, moon, and stars, planets, and universe, that's where I'm going to look for answers. Who better to ask than the creator of everything, right? Now, others honestly claim to be doing the same, but I'm going to suggest that is not entirely true. Take the website gotquestions.org and how they handled this flat versus globe issue, for example, at gotquestions.org/flat-earth-bible.html. It is clear to me that they are applying preconceived notions to the Scriptures in order to form their answers to the question being posed. Question: does the Bible teach that the earth is flat? GotQuestions.org gave this answer. Many a skeptic claims that the Bible depicts a flat earth. Scriptural references such as Revelation 7:1 are cited, which speaks of 4 angels standing at the 4 corners of the earth. However, this passage makes reference to the cardinal directions as seen on a compass, i.e. north, south, east, and west. Terminology to a similar effect is used today when we speak of the sun rising and setting each day, even though we know that it is, in fact, the earth which orbits around the sun. Wait. What? Where does the Bible say that the 4 corners represent the cardinal directions? It's a nice, reasonable conclusion only if you start with the preconceived notion that the earth is round. Where did we get that notion? Governments, their military, NASA, and monkey man science. And yes, the terminology is similar to language concerning the rising and setting of the sun and moon. But how do we, air quotes, in fact, know that what the governments, their military, NASA, and monkey men have told us concerning the sun and moon is indeed fact? What if the Scriptures simply mean what they say and say what they mean at face value? The site continues. They say, another passage often referred to is Psalm 75:3, which speaks of God holding the pillars firm. However, the Psalms are written in a poetic genre. Rather than referring to literal pillars, this is representative of God's guaranteeing the earth's stability. Even when the moral order of the world seems to have crumbled, God will not fully withdraw his sustaining power. Sounds so eloquent, doesn't it? Sounds so wonderful. Again, this interpretation stems from a preconceived notion that NASA-sponsored science is correct and the Word of God is to be bent and understood in that direction. As we will soon see, the Bible repeatedly states that the earth/world is stable, firm, and not moving, set on a foundation of pillars. It says what it says. If we are to believe that the authors of Scripture wrote under the inspiration of the Holy Spirit of the Creator, should we not simply believe what it says instead of trying to make it all poetic in order to justify preconceived ideas? By the way, I agree that the Psalms are poetic in nature, and many are, in fact, songs to be sung. However, if you are going to claim that we need to view them exclusively in that way, then, dear Christian, please stop using Psalm 22 as a messianic prophecy to be taken and thus have been fulfilled literally. Psalm 22, of course, speaks of they have pierced my hands and feet, and people use it to show. I mean, if you look at the events of the cross, what happened during the crucifixion of Yeshua, and you read Psalm 22, it's a really good fit. But wait, it's all poetic. We just write it off as poetry. Don't pay any attention to that. The Psalms are not the only place we see descriptions of the earth as firm, unmoving, and set on a foundation of some sort. So rather than trying to dismiss the psalmist's understanding of the earth as merely poetic, why not take these writings as lyrical confirmation of what has been said by others not writing in the poetic genre? Were not all the scriptures inspired by the same Holy Spirit? The site continues, gotquestions.org. Their response continues, in contrast to the supposed flat earth verses, and they've got air quotes going on there, there are numerous scriptures that clearly indicate otherwise. The earth is described in Job 26:7 as being suspended over space, implying a spherical figure. This notion is further entertained in Isaiah 40, verses 21 through 22, which refers to the circle of the earth. This is further supported by Proverbs 8:27, which speaks of God drawing a circle on the face of the deep. From a bird's eye view of the ocean, the horizon is seen as a circle. Such an observation indicates that where light terminates, darkness begins, describing the reality of day and night on a spherical earth. Does Job 26 really indicate that a sphere is suspended over nothing? Go read that scripture. You're not going to see anything about a sphere, ball, anything there. Yeah, it says something suspended over nothing, but it gives no indication of its shape. Why can't another shape be suspended? Why does it have to be indicating a sphere when there is nothing whatsoever in that text even remotely stating anything about a ball or a sphere? And Isaiah 40 verses 21 through 22 is an even worse example to use for a globe floating in a vast, ever-expanding universe. We'll get to that one shortly. Meanwhile, gotquestions.org concludes with, the round earth idea is further supported by Jesus in Luke 17 verses 31, I guess, through 34. And 34, I'm not sure what they're trying to say there. In that day, he who is on the housetop and his goods are in the house, let him not go down to take them away. And likewise, the one who is in the field, let him not turn back. I tell you, in that night, there will be two people in one bed. One will be taken, the other will be left. This would seem to indicate the phenomenon of day on one side of the globe, while darkness abides on the other. Well, this presupposes that the flat earth model can't account for the same thing, which is demonstrably false if we actually take the time to study what those who adhere to that idea really believe. The flat earth model does have a day, it does have a night. I've only been on this path for a little over a week now. It's not something that I can even remotely consider myself highly educated on, so I am by no means claiming to be an expert here. But I have to say, I can see many, many holes in the usual defense of the globe model, especially when looking into the scriptures, without preconceived notions while doing so. Seriously, if you just come to the text with no prior bias and read it with childlike openness, trusting in its truths, you simply cannot come out believing they are describing a globe. No way. I hope to prove this in the remaining sections of this essay. In the meantime, this is how Got Questions concludes their answer. In conclusion, the curvature of the earth is certainly a biblical concept, and there is little or no basis for the charge that the Bible teaches a flat earth. The scriptures that seem to present a flat earth can all easily be explained when correctly interpreted and understood. And you can read the whole article again. Click on that link right there if you would so desire. This is almost comical to me. Essentially, the last sentence is saying, yes, the scriptures do seem to present a flat earth, but if we correctly interpret and understand them through the lens of the government, the military, NASA, and monkey man science, we can assure you the Bible doesn't really mean what it is saying to you in the plain, easy to understand, clearly written text of scripture. The explanation given for the Luke passage obviously shows someone who has scaled the mountain of ignorance and not taken the time to investigate what the flat earthers actually believe. See globalist argument number 4 again. I think many who believe in the globe have the mistaken notion that the flat earthers are talking about essentially a piece of paper with continents drawn on it and an overhead light bulb shining straight down as the sun. This is not the case. They actually have a reasonably plausible model for how you can still have night and day without requiring the earth to be a sphere. And I got the animated GIF there for you again to check out. Now keep the above image in mind as we dive into Genesis 1 later in this blog. Psalm 136, verses 7 through 9 says, "To him that made great lights, for his mercy endureth forever. The sun to rule the day, for his mercy endureth forever. The moon and stars to rule the night, for his mercy endureth forever." As a 3D modeler myself, I know you can create a landscape and then insert what is called a point light that would act just like the animation above. A point light has a 360-degree spread that can be controlled and limited through attenuation settings so that it does not light everything around it from one end of the landscape to the other. You can make it only illuminate a limited area, leaving the areas outside of the light spread in the dark. And this is a video tutorial for a program that I use for a lot of my stuff called Poser. Interesting, because we're wondering if you are really on a quest for truth, or are you a poser? Well, here's a video that explains how the lighting systems work within the software called Poser. And I'm not going to play it here. You can check it out if you're interested, but it shows the different types of lights, one of them being a point light with the various parameters that you can use to adjust it. I can't really blame gotquestions.org for their answers, though, because I would have given the same answers myself 2 weeks ago. It's cognitive dissonance we're dealing with here. Wikipedia defines that as, in psychology, cognitive dissonance is the mental stress or discomfort experienced by an individual who holds two or more contradictory beliefs, ideas, or values at the same time, or is confronted by new information that conflicts with existing beliefs, ideas, or values. Leon Festinger's theory of cognitive dissonance focuses on how humans strive for internal consistency. When inconsistency, dissonance, is experienced, individuals tend to become psychologically uncomfortable, and they are motivated to attempt to reduce this dissonance, as well as actively avoiding situations and information which are likely to increase it. So when people first kind of fall into this for the first time, and I did the same thing, it's your knee-jerk reaction. This is stupid. This is crazy. This is absurd. Why are we even talking about this? It's the 21st century, for crying out loud. Didn't they figure this out 500 years ago? We all know it's a globe. Shut up about the flat earth. Cognitive dissonance. And it's what causes us to look at the scriptures, twist, manipulate them to say what they do not say, to conform to our preconceived ideas and biases. We have been literally programmed by the globalists. See, that word has taken on a whole new meaning for me, globalists, to think of the earth as a sphere. It should therefore not surprise us that this would be the way we think of our world, even when viewing the scriptures. It remains the way I think of it today. Again, I'm going to keep saying this. I still believe the earth is a globe. I'm having trouble defending that belief, but I still believe we're on a globe until a few tests that I'm going to have to perform myself will confirm either way for me what the deal is. I was challenged to test myself. Well, I was taught to test all things by the scriptures. This is where things suddenly became difficult for me. Why? Because when I removed my own cognitive dissonance, I quickly realized the Bible does not support my current view of the earth, at least not without me actively putting my own preconceived ideas onto the scriptures. It doesn't. When taking this challenge, like many other similar challenges I've taken in my life, I try to erase what I've been taught to believe and just let the scriptures speak for themselves. Now, all of us have that whiteboard in our heads, filled with all the notes we've taken from the teachings we have received, the commentaries we've read, etc. This results in a bias within us, which can cause us to try and make the scriptures say what we want them to say in order to justify our preconceived notions. But in any true study of the Bible, you cannot do that. We must let the Holy Spirit-inspired words of the Bible form our belief, not allowing ourselves to force our belief onto the Bible in an effort to make the text say what it does not say. Sadly, I've seen way too many doctrines within the Christian faith built on doing the latter. People come up with some idea, then they twist and distort the scriptures to fit that idea. I didn't want to be guilty of doing that with this issue. The simple fact of the matter is, I want the earth to be a globe. I'll admit it. I want it to be a globe. It's what I've been taught to be true for 46 years. The idea that it might not be, therefore, sounds utterly ridiculous. Yet, as it has already been said, condemnation before investigation is the height of ignorance. Therefore, let us begin our investigation without preconceived notions, thus enabling ourselves to embark on a genuine, unbiased quest for truth concerning this issue. In order to do so, let us all do our best to toss the image of a globe out of our minds. Pretend from this point on that you have never seen nor heard anything concerning our earth being in the shape of a spherical ball. We know nothing about the shape of our earth except what we can see, hear, taste, touch, and smell. Now, pretend you are approaching the Bible with fresh eyes and no preconceived ideas regarding the subject at hand. Okay? Let's begin at the beginning and see what happens.